Hello, Michael here again with another Renderman tutorial. This time, let's talk about grass. A few people have asked me for this one, so I'm going to go ahead and show you a couple of different ways to render grass with Renderman. Basically, I'm going to be showing you how to use xGen as well as Paint Effects to get some pretty quick and easy grass in your scenes. So I'm going to start with xGen, and I'd like to point out that at this point that if you haven't seen my previous xGen tutorial on fur, you might want to go ahead and check that one out because it shows you how to set up scenes with xGen so it actually renders correctly in Renderman, otherwise you might run into some issues. So what I've done here is I've set up a scene. I've just made some planes to draw the grass on that look like dirt, sort of, really simply, just brown. And I'm going to go to xGen and I'm going to click this button here, which is going to open up this, if you haven't already. Then I'm going to select this first plane on the left here, and I'm going to click create a new description, and I'm going to call this grass 4 is the collection name because I've done this a few times to test it, and this one's going to be called grass 4 as well. And then we're going to go to groomable splines, which we use for fur and grass because it's high density, and then we're going to click create. And what you'll get is a few things happening there on the plane. We're going to change a few things to start though. We're going to go to renderer and make sure that Renderman RIS is selected. Then we're going to primitives. We're going to preview output, and we're going to make sure that the renderer is set to render and the renderer is set to Renderman. And then we're going to go into initial shading group, and we're going to click Pixar Disney. And then if we update that, minor issue there, but now the for some reason that didn't update when I click that, but now it is showing. xGen is lots of fun. So what we're going to do now is we're going to increase the count of these by going to grooming. We're going to increase the density to, let's try 60. And I'm going to click that to hide the splines because I don't need them. I just want the guides for now. And that looks pretty good. So let's change the modifier. So grass isn't a consistent height all the way across, so we're going to add a actually we're going to go to primitives and we're going to change the length first. So we're going to change this to be it wants to keep it as a description, and we're going to make it rand open bracket 0.2 colon 0.5. So that means the length will be random anywhere between 0.2 and 0.5. So I'll just turn that off so you can see. You get a bit of variation there. We're also going to make it so there's a bit of a taper with the width ramp. So we're just going to do that. See how that looks. I might just pull that one down a touch. Make it taper to more of a point. I don't want a really super sharp blade of grass because it tends to look a little bit fake if you do that. And that looks pretty good. I still might increase that density to 65. So yeah, that looks good. All right, in modifiers, we're going to add a noise modifier, which will make the blades of grass sort of disperse every which way. Just set to default at 1.0. That doesn't look actually that bad. I might even just go with that, to be honest. And then you'll notice that the grass is blue, so let's grab Hypershade. If you haven't opened it already, you can click this and that'll bring it up. I'm going to clear my scene, and then I'm going to graph that. No, that's the dirt. I don't want that. I want this one, which I'm going to call grass. And we're going to graph that network, and then we're going to make the base color. I've already been doing this, so I've got some ones in there already. I'm going to make the base color a fairly dark green. No emit color, subsurface, we're going to change to 0.5, and then I'm going to add some subsurface. I'm going to make the subsurface color a brightish green, so when you get a back illumination close to the grass, you'll notice that this highlighted green is being pushed through. This will actually increase the overall brightness of your grass as it is, so just be wary of that when you are adding it in. Specularity I'm going to change to 0.15, roughness probably 0.4. and then I'm going to add an environment shader, so environment light rather, so I can see what's going on. And I might even just add in just a geo light there, just so I can get some cast shadow and a better look at the grass overall and see those highlights. And in the attribute editor of the light, we're going to make it just a little bit peachy, and then let's click render and see what we get. All right, so it's a little bit off. I think the width of the grass is a little bit fat at the moment, so let's just quickly decrease that in the xGen editor in primitives width. You could also control this with the width here by just clicking this drop down and reset to slider, and then you'll see that you get 0 width. I'll change that to 1.0. That's too fat. Let's try 0.1. Yeah, something like that. And then the density looks a little bit low now, so let's increase that to 80. Maybe even higher, 100. Cool. And then let's try rendering that. All right, so that looks a little bit better. I might even zoom in so you can see that it's just a tiny bit better. Cool. So something to keep in mind with grass is think about how close your camera is going to be to it, because the closer you get, the more obvious it's going to be that it's sort of just like generated looking grass rather than discretely modeled primitives. So you can see that it's sort of like pretty basic looking. I still want that to be a bit pointier, to be honest, so I'm going to do that. Yeah. So like the closer you are, the worse it's going to look generally. And if you've got some like really close foreground grass blades in your shot, like you've got some sort of macro shot of a bug or something like that on a leaf, what you might want to consider doing is actually model the grass that's close to the camera and give it a nice UV map and paint it up so it looks like a real piece of grass, and then use the generated grass for grass that's further away from the camera. And you'll probably get a better result that way, and you can control exactly what your audience is seeing. But there's a few more things we can do to this shader just to pretty it up real quickly. So let's go into the Hypershade editor, let's clear that, and then graph the grass network again. What we can do is if you click the little square thing next to the base color and plug in a ramp, let's just tidy that up again. We can actually make a gradient from the bottom to the tip, which will make it look a little bit more realistic, in the sense that it will apply a gradient which will make give it the appearance that the bottom part of the grass is in shadow more than what you get then with just the natural shadow. So you can see there that gradient's being applied, and then you get some sort of like false highlights on the tip of the grass as well. You could even go even further and plug in another, I got that render going? Nope. Plug in another node there and then give it even more of a highlight, so it looks like the tips of the grass are even more transparent, because they will be like thinner. So then if we give that a render, it's starting to look a bit more attractive than that, as you can see. So if your shot is somewhere around here, that grass will look fairly realistic, I would say. No one's going to look at that and go, oh, that's, procedurally generated grass, essentially. It just looks, pretty nice. There is one other thing that I'll get to with collisions a little bit later on after I show you the paint effects, but that's pretty much grass that's good to go. The only thing that you might want to consider is maybe you could do like a PTEX based texture map. You can see that in my applying UV to xGen fur, you'd use the same technique to do it on grass, like I've done here. So maybe you could have patches of yellow for dead grass if it's a summer scene or whatever. All right, so let's have a look at paint effects. So paint effects is really simple and you get some really nice results, but you would notice that if you've tried to do this, that you can't actually get any renderable color in it off the bat, because there is no support for Renderman shaders plugged into it by default. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Windows, General Editor and Visor. And then this will come up. We're going to go down to grasses and you'll get a couple of examples here. The one that I like to start with is the grass wind wide. And if you right click this, you can click apply to selected stroke, apply brush to selected stroke, which will bring up the painting tool. So that's what it's saying, is that you got some percentages. You can blend it. Like if I wanted to blend this brush and this brush, you could blend 50% in. I'm just going to use 100% this one here. And then basically you can hold the B key and drag left and right, and you'll increase and decrease the size of your brush. And then you can just click and draw on some grass. Very simple. And then I'm going to hit Q to get off the brush tool. And you'll see you've got some grass there. But if we render it, you'll see that it doesn't have any color. And that's because Renderman doesn't have a shader applied to it, so it doesn't know what it's meant to look like, and it's just rendering it as a black and white primitive essentially. So what we need to do is go to the attribute with the grass selected, go to the, and if you're in the outliner, it's not the stroke, the curve, it's the stroke. So we've got a couple of options here. Display quality, that's just showing you what's in the viewport. So if you increase that, that's going to look closer to what the render will look like. Depending on how powerful your computer is will depend on how you want to set this. Just to get an idea of what's going on, just set it to 25. And actually, before I go any further, I will note that this is actually animated as well. So if you want to run through the animation on the slider, you can. And if you want to find a sort of better part of that animation, you might be able to do that. All right, so let's plug a shader into it. First, we're going to go to the stroke, then we're going to go to attributes, Renderman, and add custom shading group. And you'll get a custom initial shading group like that. And that won't do anything just yet, but what we can do is with it selected, let's go to the node editor, which is under Windows, node editor. Let's clear that scene, and then let's select the grass again and plug it in with that. So that's just going to display all the things that are plugged into the grass on the node editor. And then we're going to use the shader that we created before in the Hypershade editor by selecting it in the Hypershade and then going across to here and clicking this one here, and you'll get it in the node editor as well. So we're just going to move that. So you'll see you've got this initial shading group plugged into the stroke. I'm just going to open that up by clicking 3 and then open that up by clicking 3 so we can see what we're doing. So disconnect the initial shading group from the stroke grass by doing that. And then we're going to click that, which shows the outputs of that. And then you'll see you've got the Pixar Disney thing applied there. And what we're going to do is plug the message from that into that. And then we should be able to render the grass, and you'll see that you get the color that we had, the shader that we had applied to the xGen now applied to this. You could also in the node editor just plug this out color directly into the surface shader, but if you want your initial shading group to remain as the gray for any time that you create a primitive, it's better just to not have that connected at all. So we're just going to go here and click render again so we can see that the gradient is in fact working, which it is. You can see it's darker there and lighter there. So that's pretty straightforward. And there's not really much else that you need to do. You can play around a little bit more with subsurface and things like that to get a better look at it. But straight off the bat there, that's going to be pretty effective. And I'd just like to point out by bringing up the visor again, that this works with any of these. However, some of these include brushes that have got other primitives mixed in. So you obviously like ones that have got flowers and things like that. So they won't work as well because obviously you'll get flowers that are green as well as the grass that's green. So everything will be green. For flowers and things like that, I would recommend just quickly modeling some really basic geometry, UV mapping it and coloring it, and then just duplicating it throughout your scene. I'm not going to show you how to do that here because I think that's pretty straightforward. But I will show you that you can create other types of grass. Now, if you're going to do it, make sure that you don't have this stroke selected, because if you do have it selected and then you go into here and you go apply brush, it will change it. So with that selected, I can just apply that and it will take it back to what it was before. So make sure that you have deselected it, and then move to where you want to paint. And then let's select a different rice summer. I haven't used this one before, so let's see what it looks like. And just draw it in. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right. And then we're going to use the same method to apply the Renderman shader to it. Okay, so that doesn't look quite as good. I have never used that one before, so you know, it kind of doesn't look quite as nice as these other ones here, but you get the point. Those are the different, you'll just have to play with those different ones in the visor to get exactly what you want. Maybe try blending some together. That could work well as well. Now, one other thing before we wrap this one up will be that if you've got other objects in your scene, you might want them to collide with the grasses that you've created. There's a couple of different ways you can do this. So let's just create a sphere. And let's give it a blue shader so we can see it easily amongst the grass. So the first thing with the xGen, if it's a still, the easiest way to do this would be just to plop it in the grass. I'm just going to smooth that. Go back to the xGen, go to grooming. I'm going to turn off the visibility of that and turn on the guides, and then we're just going to use repel. And once again, with this brush, if you hold down B, you can increase and decrease the size of it. And we're just going to repel it from where our mesh is in the scene. And it'll look something like that. And then if we redo that, this is obviously quick and dirty, and it's not the most realistic sort of example of how that might look in real life if you dropped a ball in some grass. But if you render that, you'll see that the grass is moving away from the ball, and that looks fairly effective. Now you get a little bit better result with this grass. If I just go back to the Q select tool again, and we select the grass and then the ball, and if we go to generate and I always lose it, make collide, and then if we select this ball and move it into the grass, you'll see that the grass is being pushed away from it, which is really simple and really realistic looking. And you could do the same thing with that one there. So if you set it in the grass like that and then render it again, the grass is really nicely pushed away from it. So that's straightforward as. If you are finding that you want a little bit more control of this, you could also modify it, convert paint effects to polygons, which will increase your poly count obviously, but it will make it so it's much easier to apply shaders to it. So you could just do it the standard way, assign material to selection, and then you'll get that, and it will retain its collisions, but because it's actually not showing a preview of the grass, it's actually showing every single polygon. It's increased the amount of faces dramatically in the scene, and it's going to make it more difficult to calculate that on the fly. So if you don't have a very good computer, I wouldn't recommend doing this, but if you are needing some extra control over your polygons, then that's a good way to go about it. So yeah, that is pretty much it. Obviously there's a few things to consider when you're lighting your scene and whatnot, but this isn't a tutorial on how to light grass, it's a tutorial on how to make it. So yeah, finally here's a quick example of how you might go about rendering a scene. I've just done this with a quick HDR background and some grass generated in the foreground to make it look like it's got some depth. And I've applied a depth of field modifier to the camera, so you've got that nice focus fall away happening, and which is actually quite good to do with grass because it's got so much density to it. You actually see the focus fall away really nicely. So if you don't know how to do that, I've actually got a tutorial on how to do that in Maya as well, so check that out in my channel. If you've liked this video, please click the like button so other people can find it as well and get themselves some nice renderable grass. And if you like this video and you want to see more of my videos, just go back to my channel, you'll see them there. Click subscribe because I put up a new tutorial basically every week now. And if you have any questions, leave them in the comments there. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Or if you have any requests for tutorials, please drop me a line. I'll be happy to try and sort one out for you. I'm getting pretty confident in Renderman now. I know my way around it pretty good. So if I can help you, I would be happy to make a tutorial. But that's pretty much it. So thank you for watching, and I will catch you next time. Happy rendering.